Royal Highnesses, أصحاب الفضيلة, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and good morning to everybody. It gives me a great pleasure to have the honor of moderating this session of Riyadh International Dispute Settlement Week with prominent names who will shed lights on the value and significance of having a viable and reliable arbitration system in place for the attraction and development of international businesses and national economies. Our panelists in this sessions are His Excellency Bakr al-Haboob, Deputy Minister of the Ministry of Investment for Regulatory and Policy Development, Her Excellency Ms. Anna Joubert Brett, Secretary of the United Nations Commission on International Trade, Law, UNCITRAL, and Ms. Hannah Chow, General Counsel, Silk Road Fund of China, and last but not least, Mr. Brian Gillespie, General Counsel of the Saudi Public Investment Fund, PIF. Ladies and gentlemen, we all understand the value and importance of foreign direct investment and cross-border trade to the growth and diversity of any country's economy. We know that it contributes to a larger, stronger, and more sustainable economy of any nation in the long run. In this context, foreign direct investment and cross-border trade very much fit into Saudi Arabia's strategic development plans as embodied in its Vision 2030. However, the proper management of income and foreign direct investment and cross-border trade requires a country to put into place viable economic policies and credible institutions that encourage investment by both international and domestic players. Such policies and institutions include independent, neutral, and credible dispute resolution mechanisms, both in the courts and alternative dispute resolution institutions such as the Saudi Center for Commercial Arbitration. Our speakers this morning bring the perspectives of governments, businesses, domestic and international investors, as well as international institutions. I am sure they will give us the latest trends and developments. They will share insightful perspectives on how the establishment of a trustworthy dispute resolution institutions in the kingdom is advancing its goals to grow, diversify, and sustain its economy. Now, without further ado, let's start our session by directly asking our speakers questions. And we're also restricted with the time. We've got 40 minutes. And I will start the session with a question directed to His Excellency Bakr al-Haboob. Your Excellency, can you please tell us how can the Saudi Center for Commercial Arbitration in particular and the industry of ADR in general contribute to achieving the objectives of the National Investment Strategy? The floor is yours, Your Excellency.
شكرا أستاذ سعود، أصحاب السمو، أصحاب المعالي والسعادة، الحضور الكريم، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. اسمحوا لي الانتقال للإنجليزية للتحدث مع أصحاب المعالي والسعادة أعضاء هذه الجلسة. First of all, we need to be reminded that the national investment strategy is the critical enabler of Vision 2030. The NIS the national investment strategy play an important role in the kingdom's economy transformation plan. So any investment in general has three components: the protection, which is the risk of doing business, and the promotion, facilitation, and the dispute resolution mechanism. The nature of any investment has a contract based on contracts, usually has different views and dispute toward implementation and transportation of its term. So, and from this particular point, it arises the importance to have an effective opinion that's solving the dispute. Arbitration, by its characteristic, is designed to cater that desire. And for this sake, as Saudi marching toward to be a center of international investment, likewise, the other component, which including the dispute mechanism, should be leading as such. And we heard from the previous session how the Asia economic booming was accompanied by arbitration center that cater the desire of that economic growth. The same in Saudi. We are visioning since 2016 the massive growth of the economy and the critical need to have an arbitration center. And obviously, each country has its own flagship center that represent an important component of the dispute settlement. We have, beside the court system, the arbitration center. So I would rather say Saudi Arbitration Center comes to cater that desire and cater that need where investment ecosystem required to have such.
Thank you, Your Excellency, and may I commend the Ministry of Investment on its achievements and very ambitious plans to raise the bar very significantly to about 3 trillion riyals this decade, so well done. I'm going to move to Her Excellency, Ms. Anna Zoubey Brett, the Secretary of the UNICETRAL. Your Excellency, as you know, Saudi Arabia has recently ratified the United Nations Convention on Contracts for the International Sale of Goods, which will go into effect effective as of September 1st of this year. We would like to know from you, what should the Kingdom be expecting as a result of this significant development?
Thank you very much. Please allow me to say a few words of thanks for having us here, for having the United Nations Commission on International Trade Law. It's a great pleasure, it's a great honor, and for me, I personally am very touched to be here because I remember fondly the early days of in 2015, 2016, when SCCA was setting up its operations here, and I'm quite amazed by the incredible growth and by the incredible success story behind the SCCA. So having said that, I'm also very proud to witness the signature by the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia of the CISG. The CISG is one of our flagship conventions, flagship instruments, that looks not at procedure, but at substance. It helps create a certainty, legal certainty, in substantive transactions between buyers, sellers of goods, and goods in a very large exception. And therefore, in our view, it's an important milestone in providing not only first-class dispute resolution mechanisms and institutions, but also joining a harmonized framework for buyers and sellers, for traders, and for investors. Because the convention, if you want, works as a harmonized substantive law, but it also works as default rules when the parties who may derogate from one provision or the other have not provided for certain aspects of their contractual relationship. So therefore, it's extremely important to be part of this convention, which already gathers 97 states, and which is part of a broader set of international conventions, ancestral texts, some of which Saudi Arabia is already a party to, such as the Convention on Electronic Communications, but others like the Limitation Convention, which has also a significant number of member states. Saudi Arabia is still in the way of joining. What is important to flag in relation to the CISG and to the accession by Saudi Arabia, by the kingdom, is that it has not been a smooth ride insofar as there are aspects of Sharia law that do not lend themselves to harmonizations through the CISG. So we had a very interesting and enlightening conference yesterday about the approach that Saudi Arabia has taken, joining the convention, but not joining all of the parts of the convention. Part 3 is under reservation. So this means that there is still work to be done in ensuring that some of the fundamental principles of Sharia law, for instance, regarding interests, and interests that apply to amounts due, can also benefit from this harmonized set of rules. So we're working on it, but we are also delighted to see that, you know, the step of joining has been taken, and that we are now counting on one more and very influential member state to this convention that will hopefully pave the way for more countries in the region to join the convention, the CISG.
Thank you, Your Excellency. I would like to also thank you on behalf of the Saudi Center for Commercial Arbitration for all the support we got from you personally and from UNICETRAL in general from the get-go. So thank you. We're happy to have you back here. And I also take your point. The kingdom will definitely look into any obstacles and will resolve them. It has been shown that Sharia is very flexible, is very resilient legal system. We have seen that recently in the civil transactions law that was passed and went into effect a couple of months ago. And just as we have navigated through the banking system and introduced Islamic solutions, I'm sure that article or part 3 of the agreement will also be resolved in due course. So thank you very much. I want to move now to Ms. Hannah Chow. Let me say that in our part of the world, we're very fond of the Silk Road Fund and happy to have you here. I have a question relating to the agreements that you enter into as you embark on the ambitious projects that you have and transactions. So could you let us know, please, for agreements that you've entered into in the kingdom, what would the Silk Road Fund agree for choice of law, what rules, and what venue? And also I want to know that for the international agreements. So the floor is yours.
Thank you. Let me say, it's truly an honor for me to be here today. I remember last year in September, I first was introduced to Dr. Hamad Merah by Professor Afaki in Beijing when they were both in China's arbitration week. And I remember Dr. Hamad asked me, have you ever been to Riyadh? I said, no, I would love to. and he extended the invitation to me. And here I am. I arrived last night, and to see how dynamic the city and the kingdom is. I really look forward to meeting more friends today, later, and tomorrow. And perhaps I should offer a few words about ourselves first. Silk Road Fund has been established to help implement China's Belt and Road Initiative. This year, we are celebrating our 10th year anniversary, so it's a big year for us. Our goal is really to promote shared development and prosperity between China and other Belt and Road countries. We focus on our investment on energy, infrastructure, financial sector, and manufacturing. In recent years, as China and the whole world are transitioning to a more sustainable mode, we have been focusing more of our energy and our attention on the sustainable and the renewable energy sector. And you were asking about the choice of law and arbitration clauses in our agreements. We have been having the pleasure of making major investment in the kingdom. We have been part of the International Investment Consortium in the pipeline projects with Aramco. And we also have been working closely with our business partner, Aqua Power, which is a subsidiary of PIF, in a number of very important renewable energy projects, including one of the largest CSP projects located in Dubai, UAE. I recall in the agreements we entered into with the partners in the kingdom, for example, with Aramco, we use Saudi Arabian law as the governing law. For the SPA, for SHA, licensing agreement, service and maintenance agreement, many other agreements. And the dispute resolution clause provided ICC Paris as the dispute resolution seat. In other projects, we were working with Aqua Power because the projects were located in UAE. We used the DIFC law and arbitration for dispute resolutions. So that's generally the current picture, but going forward, we'd love to really consider Riyadh and SCCA as a choice. Maybe we can discuss more later.
Great, thank you very much. 谢谢.
谢谢.
Very good start, and hopefully the SCCA will play a greater role as you continue to invest in this part of the world. I want to go to Brian now. Brian, you're the talk of the world, not the town, my friend. And what a huge portfolio you have on your hands, and it's in good hands. I would like to ask you the same questions, or the same question in the two parts. What would the PIF agree for choice of law, rules, and the venue? And for international agreements, given that you do a lot abroad, what would PIF agree for choice of law, rules, venue? And would you consider using SCC rules, KSA law, and Riyadh as a seat?
Thank you very much for having me, first of all. I appreciate whoever's included me by mistake, not only because I don't personally hold a candle to the light of our esteemed guests, but because PIF doesn't have any disputes. No. I think everybody knows, unfortunately, that we recognize that from PIF perspective, we recognize one thing of importance. First of all, we're only here because of the hard work done by those that have come before us. The SCCA is a perfect example. We really appreciate the tremendous success of the Ministry of Investment, which makes our job possible. And I think we must acknowledge the tremendous innovation of the Ministry of Justice over the last couple of years, and which continues. Those are really, in many ways, I think, the leader of the tremendous innovation of the legal landscape within the kingdom, which I think is taking a leadership position globally. And that's an important thing we should all be proud of. And I appreciate, from a PIF perspective, those that have done the hard work to get us to be talked about, as you say. It's really just a figment of those that have come before us and the environment in which we're happy to participate. I participate today primarily as a learner, right? And So I'll try to keep most of my comments a bit short so that I can listen more than I speak, which is fairly rare for me personally in any case. But I think it's important also to say thank you to the private practice, in particular the private practice sponsors. Aramco, of course, has been a major force for good in this kingdom for a long time, but it's important to see the private practice, Al-Daban and partners, and some of the others who have been significant sponsors here today are really taking also a leadership position in a responsibility for the legal landscape, and we are both proud and appreciate the support of those sponsors, and I think it's important we mention it. We do at PIF recognize one thing, that we want to be partners. We want to be the preferred capital providing partners over a long period of time to the world's most innovative businesses. And generally speaking, we can all agree disputes are bad for business, right? They're certainly largely antithetical to partnership, and they don't represent the qualities that we want to bring to our partnerships and to our partners. And so I have to say that from our perspective, disputes are, let's say, at best, a necessary evil. And we try not to pick fights, but perhaps we're not as good as we could be at avoiding them. And I appreciate the patience of everyone else in the kingdom who is sitting back and perhaps being unfairly painted with the brush of some of the disputes that we've gotten ourselves into, unfortunately. What we think can be done is practical, innovative steps moving forward to eliminate the damage of these disputes for all of us. And I commend the SCCA in their ability to do that, and I think the progress made, as we heard from the CEO earlier. In particular, I think we look at some of our more recent disputes, including investigations, and we as PIF take a very practical approach primarily to your concerns about arbitration, about choice of law, and about forum. That perhaps that's not surprising from us as investors, right? That primarily means when we're in a dispute, we don't want to be in it. We want to minimize damage, and we want to make sure that the relationship and the principles of our investment are what drives the show. In order to do that, we prefer to take practical considerations both in a dispute and ahead of time to avoid them. Those practical considerations are largely governed by enforcement, right? Those are easy ones for us. Show me the money, right? No use in taking the damage of a dispute if there's no recovery and no ability to prevail in a real sense. So we always follow domiciliation of our counterparties, and we also look at where the assets are. That's not magic for anybody. We've done that a long time in the kingdom. What I think is the new magic is an ability to inspire in our partners real confidence in the arbitration inside the kingdom. Yeah. That's the major innovation. I think that's an important thing to also commend the SCCA on. As opposed to what we've done previously, perhaps in this region and even within the kingdom in decades past, in focused on best practices, we now focus on being real leaders and innovators. In order to do that, we certainly want to be aware of what other people are doing, but we don't want to preclude our ability to do it different and better, perhaps, than elsewhere. And to that extent, I think taking the right mix of best practices from Singapore, from ICC, from some of the more successful, taking the cues from important stakeholders like the UN and the Ministry of Investment, and not relying only on best practices, but looking for a better way to inspire confidence in removing the mystery of disputes within the kingdom. Mm-hmm. And we see that being already a practical reality of our partnerships with foreign investors and alike. So the simple answer is we're excited about SCCA. We think there's a lot of value in arbitration as a practical means to disputes that let us really focus on the two most important things: recovery and precedent-setting enforcement, right? We don't want to set precedent that invades or prejudices any of our counterparty stakeholders of the kingdom's sovereignty. So we stick to Saudi law as much as we can, but we remain partnerial in our ability for an independent arbitration award that inspires confidence and an ability to move forward as a partner. Previously, we've had no ability to do that in the SCCA. Is now allowing that ability within the kingdom, and we look forward to using it more.
Great, Brian. Well, I'm sure the wisdom of PIF is sound because His Excellency the Minister of Justice has shared with us some very impressive statistics. Once the arbitral award is rendered, it becomes analogous to a court judgment. It's enforceable, and over 90% of judgments that have been challenged have been affirmed. So those are all good news. Thank you again. I will turn now to His Excellency Ustad Bakr al-Haboub, and we have a lot of lawyers from abroad, and I'm sure they'll be interested to hear the second question. Could you please shed some light on the recent licensing of international law firms in the Kingdom? How can that strategy contribute to uplifting the legal industry in Saudi Arabia?
Thank you, Abdullah, for this question. Let's remind us one of the important goals of Vision 2030 to strengthen the support of that vision by creating, strengthening the legal infrastructure. The legal infrastructure has a multiple component. If we see the arbitration industry, the value chain of the arbitration industry has very terminals. The first one starting from education, from the enabling regulation, from the trusted arbitration center, and the community, which is part of it, the law firm. Law firm has two pillars in contributing to this industry. One, providing the expertise, who is the key pillar as arbitrator, and second, providing the legal advice for their client. For this sake, as we can see, the law firm globally is serving the business community and providing the ancillary and auxiliary services. Having said that, to give a more strategic direction toward providing other component, the Council of Ministers amending the practice code, the legal practice code, and enabling the foreign law firm to provide a legal advice, even in Saudi regulation, through a licensed Saudi, and that give you a freedom and more enabling to be part of from the Saudi legal infrastructure. I give you some statistics that represent how opportunistic the NIS National Investment Strategy, identify wide range of area, including the partnership with public and private sector, emerging sectors such as tourism, entertainment, transportation, logistics, energy, and also we've seen this as evidence, increasing number of investment license. The amount shot up from 96% in last year as a testimony of the increased business demand. And law firms generally are located where the business is flourishing. Having said that, today Saudi start with the Ministry of Justice licensing over than 25 law firms up to date, and the others continue. And we had a session with Law Society in UK where there is a real momentum to explore the opportunity in Saudi. Thank you.
Great. This is really good. Thank you very much. I didn't realize that there are 25. I want to go back to Ms. Anna Joubert, Your Excellency, based on the experience and illustrious career you've had and based on the experience of UNICETRAL, could you please tell us what types of disputes that we may be seeing in the Kingdom, a country that has opened up for business, and specifically what SCCA should be expecting?
Well, thank you very much. I wish I had a crystal ball that would allow me to give you real insights. But having said that, we are in a very privileged position in the UN, in UNCITRAL, because we see arbitration centers, ADR centers flourishing in different parts of the world, and we see how as Minister Shang Mungan said very rightly, law follows business. So when there is business flourishing, like it's the case here, and even if you take very good precautions for dispute avoidance and you write the best possible contracts, the exponential, growth of the investments into Saudi Arabia and out of Saudi Arabia by funds like the PFI are, of course, going to generate disputes. So what I think we can say without needing the crystal ball is that all these mega projects, all these construction projects, all these energy projects, all these infrastructure projects are all going to be generating disputes at some stage at bigger or hopefully at smaller levels. And what is really, I think, the good approach that was chosen by and implemented by the kingdom is to not propose only one way, but to have an array of different mechanisms to settle disputes, of institutions working together, and particularly seeing what the SCCA is providing in terms of the breadth of the different services that Dr. Mera showed this morning. So if you provide all these different services, you will be able to cater for those disputes that are very tiny, maybe in amount, but require expedited arbitration, require simplified procedures. You're going to be able to cater to the mega projects that include arbitration most of the time. You're going to have the commercial court addressing the buying and selling issues that arise from all this bustling business. So I have no doubt that the SCCA is going to see a dramatic increase in its caseload, not because it is more dangerous to invest and more risky to invest, but simply as a mirror of the amount of investment that is taking place, of the amount of commercial transactions that are taking place, and that inevitably come with their range of disputes, be they big, be they small. So that would be my take on that. We've seen that in many other jurisdictions, and I have absolutely no doubt with this coherent approach that is being taken in the kingdom to have the law and the dispute resolution as the two pillars enabling legal certainty. I think you have all the ingredients for a very active dispute resolution industry.
Great, thank you. Coming from the expert, we appreciate that. I have been requested to be efficient with the time, and you have been patient and given us a lot of great insights. So my question to my colleagues, Ms. Hannah Chow and Mr. Brian Gillespie, each being General Counsel of a prominent sovereign fund, just simply you two being the clients for us, the lady and the gentleman being enablers, what are your expectations of the SCCA? Give us your words of wisdom. I turn to you, Ms. Chow.
Sure. As Brian mentioned, as investors, we do not like disputes because we want to make money peacefully. However, disputes do happen. So we do need efficient, transparent, and predictable dispute resolution infrastructure in place. And SCCA certainly is offering that promising prospect to us. And as an investor, living in a very challenging, rapidly evolving environment, we face a lot of troubles, difficulties. We want to have this peace of mind that arbitration can help us settle those disputes. For example, we are experiencing energy transition. We are marching toward net zero, but we do have this traditional oil and gas that we really need to power our economy growth. Well, we see the regulatory environment changing a lot. We see money coming into this region and the money from PIF going to other parts of the world. There are conflicts in terms of these different goals, in terms of how to power our economy, fuel our growth. We imagine that there will be more cases being filed to SSA in response to the energy transition and ESG issues. In addition, we understand now there are new waves of sanctions being introduced by major countries against the background of major military conflicts. However, parties subject to sanctions do want to implement or execute their contracts entered into already. So how to help the parties resolve the conflicts, disputes in face of the sanction? I hope CSSA will provide more guidance. And finally, I think for foreign investors outside of the region, there is certain unfamiliarity with the Sharia, the principle of Sharia. We understand for arbitration award to be enforceable, it needs to comply with the Sharia law principle here. So for foreign investors, there might be some concerns about what are those traps we need to be aware of. So I believe more education, more learning needs to be provided to allow investors outside the region to come here to seek safe harbor, seek dispute resolution safely. Thank you.
Thank you. That last point is very important, and let me kind of tweak the proverb that figures speak louder than words. The Minister of Justice has just told us that more than 90% of arbitral awards are honored. So I think it's a matter of time before the world discovers that you can do business comfortably and with full trust in the kingdom. Let me go to my friend Brian for, as a final words of wisdom from you, Brian, and with your experience and significant work. I know you've had an illustrious career. You've handled more than $100 billion worth of M&A transactions. Tell us what would be your advice for SCCA?
Well, first let me say I learned when I took this position that it's always dangerous to follow incredible women. I've seen it again today, and I can't add much more to what I've just seen and what both Her Excellency and Hannah have said. So let me say it's a bright future, right? The reality is, as we said, we want to avoid disputes, but of disputes, when you end up in court, everybody loses. That's very clear. I think the SCCA is providing an opportunity for Saudi and the kingdom to show our desire to innovate and to lead not only within the kingdom, but globally, to challenge some of the accepted fundamentals that have not produced the best business-related solutions to these inevitable disputes, as Ms. Hannah says. So what I think is the biggest change for the SCCA is the removal of mystery for frankly, foreign investors and FDI coming into the kingdom or partnering with us. Yeah. As that mystery is removed, similar to some of the aspects of Sharia we just discussed, right? As that mystery is removed, the independence and confidence grows in the apparatus of the SCCA. It becomes clearly the best decision for both parties that are doing business that touch and concerns the kingdom. We're going to continue to support the SCCA and arbitration as the best means to the end for the kingdom's business environment and the legal landscape. And as we see greater comfort with our counterparties, we think the practical reality is that the SCCA will continue to be even busier.
Great, thank you very much. I would like on your behalf to thank our distinguished speakers for their insights, and I want to thank you for coming to our conference. Have a great day, and thank you very much.